Monday is here. That means we have a new week of predictions upon us. This week, we have a heavyweight title fight. Tom Aspinall versus Infinite title shot Gone. UFC 321. This will be happening on October 25th in Etihad Arena in Abu Dhabi. Quite ridiculous looking at all three of the different banners that we've had for Cyril Gane title shots since UFC 270 against Francis Ngannou. It's also even funnier to think about how Gane rebounded from his loss against Francis Ngannou with Tai Tuivasa after getting an interim title from beating Derek Lewis before the fight. He was attempting to unify against Francis Ngannou, who wrestled him because his knee was shredded in that one. If that's any indicator of how this goes, I mean, I just saw a video of Cyril Gane getting wrestled by Nasrat Imavov. We're still going to break down all of this anyways. This is kind of like the no-brainer main event pick. I'll have no words if Tom Aspinall somehow bottles this. We're going to start with the prelims. This was such a funny iteration of O'Malley in Abu Dhabi wearing the Arabic garments and the gold chains and the clout goggles. Make sure to like, comment, and subscribe before we get into these picks right now too. We're going to get started with the prelim opener right now, which is Jacqueline Amorim versus Mizuki Inoue. I can't take one more stinky WMMA, a numbered card opener or fight night opener, dude. It's too much. I remember there was a point that we would at least be able to get a heavyweight fight that would end in first round KO, like the one from Australia. That used to be our standard. I mean, I guess if they are going to put WMMA fights anywhere on a card, make sure that it is the opener so that we're not stuck watching a really bad fight as we're getting more finishes and more momentum towards the middle of the prelims, but I have no expectations for this. Cronin versus Lisboa last week was it was ironic. It was fun to meme on, bro. It ended up getting kind of turned towards the end of the fight whenever there was a finish in the third round, but the best thing that we could hope for here is going to be a round one submission from Jacqueline Amorim. Mizuki, she's a Reebok era fighter. That's a Reebok fight kid, and she's only fought twice since 2019 because she tore her knee after she lost a fight against Amanda Lemos, and then she came back in 2023 and she beat Hannah Goldie, the OF Demon. So, I mean, she's just been on hiatus ever since. This is a 25-month layoff for her. Jacqueline Amorim, she's been more active in this division. Since 2023, which was the last time that Mizuki competed, Jacqueline Amorim has strung together 4 wins, 2 of which were round 1 submissions. As a matter of fact, all 4 of Jacqueline Amorim's wins have been finishes in the UFC, so her only loss came to Sam Hughes, which, again, Sam Hughes is kind of a dog. After the Paris card, I'm not sleeping on her anymore. I don't know, you guys. I kind of don't want to pick the 15-6 WMMA fighter who's been fighting once every 8 million years to win against the girl who's at least been making appearances in the octagon more often. I don't know. Who do I select here? The 2 women that Jacqueline Amorim got her round 1 submissions, they were both arm bars over, were going to be Vanessa DeBopoulos and Corey McKenna. So, I mean, not the highest level of competition, but I'm not assuming that Mizuki Inoue is going to be anything more substantial. I mean, I guess her boxing is not bad, but I still think that she would get submitted by Jacqueline Amorim in the first round. For my sake, she needs to, because I just do not want to spend a lot of time watching this fight, mate. So I'm going to go ahead and select Amorim to win via round 1 submission. We're going to talk about the next fight. Next, we have Azat Maksum versus Mitch Raposo at flyweight. This is what I'm talking about right here. I made a video talking about the best mountain fighters, and I put Azat Maksum on this list. And I said, dude, they just need to stop making him fight with dudes who are better than him right now so he can develop. I don't know why they do this with certain flyweights who, they kind of believe in. They damn them to fates of just losing fights instead of building them up through this type of matchmaking. Azat Maksum pulled up and fought Charles Johnson immediately, and then he fought with Tagir Ulanbekov. What? They did not want to see this man winning. He's just now getting, I'm not even going to call this on-level matchmaking because Azat Maksum is better than Mitch Raposo, but it's a winnable fight. This is the first time that he's gotten a winnable fight in 3 different scheduled matches in the UFC. Raposo's lost consecutive fights to Sumaderji, where he looked absolutely horrible, and then Andre Lima, where, I mean, he put up even a better fight against Andre Lima. But in the Sumaderji fight, this guy threw 2 strikes per round, and then he would get takedowns at certain points of the different rounds, and then he would just abandon position and let Sumaderji get back up on the feet. And Sumaderji wasn't even doing all too much either, but he at least had some level of output, and Mitch Raposo was just getting jabbed. This type of wrestling is not going to do anything against Azat Maksum. It won't stop Azat Maksum from getting going on the feet. It won't stop Azat Maksum from scrambling and then getting better positions himself to dominate the fight on the ground. Wherever it goes, I think Azat Maksum is better than Mitch Raposo, so I'm going to hang my hat on that. I don't think this fight will even make it to the floor because Mitch Raposo is going to be getting laced on the feet. You know, with like Beksat Almakan, they gave him Umar Nurmagomedov, and then he loses that fight, and then they give him Brad Katona, and he like suns that guy and knocks him out super fast. This is Azat Maksum's very own Brad Katona. I think he's going to win via round 1 KO here. So that's what I'm going to select. Maksum via round 1 KO. Let's talk about the next one. Chris Barnett versus Hamdy Abdelwahab at heavyweight. I can't rally behind Barnett even as a meme, dude. 5'9" heavyweight. This guy does not take care of his body. His physique is not good. He has cardio issues. He's hurting himself on walkouts. This guy is jumping during his introduction and like blowing his knees out. There's too many injuries paired with too little activity. At heavyweight, he's only really had flashes in the pan, like wheel kick knockouts over Jan Vellante and then a knockout over Jake Collier. And both of those guys I don't even think are in the UFC anymore. Kennedy Nzechukwu in his last fight got a free one against Chris Barnett since, again, Barnett, he had injured himself in the walkout. There's no telling whether or not the same thing will happen again. Maybe he'll focus up and actually let the fight start before anything catastrophic happens. But Hamdy Abdelwahab, for what it's worth, he narrowly lost to a guy who was confirmed to be on steroids in his last outing. And he looked bad. But, I mean, it seemed like he did have the cardio to make it 15 minutes because he did make it 15 minutes. One of his best weapons in the fight against Mo Usman was going to be his low kick. And I think that he'll find success with that in a fight against Chris Barnett, who is coming off of a knee injury. It really just comes down to both of these guys not being very good. Hamdy Abdelwahab is not like this animal, right? But his body isn't breaking down, and he has more of a frame for heavyweight. Chris Barnett is an undisciplined lightweight fighter. Like 5'9" at heavyweight, man. Like, mistakes were made. This is Hamdy Abdelwahab's third fight this year as well, so, I mean, good on him for activity. I think that he won't be battling ring rust, and that'll make a difference here in a fight against Barnett. This matchup will be good for the memes, but that's about it. I think that Hamdy Abdelwahab is either going to finish here, or he's going to clinch to a decision, so I will actually take Hamdy Abdelwahab via decision just to cover my tracks, but I'm not going to side with Chris Curtis, dude. I previewed this fight on one of my recaps of the Contender Series, Jose Miguel Delgado versus Nathaniel Wood. This is a very interesting fight here because what do you do with a fighter like Nathaniel Wood, who is solid, but he wins every single fight by decision? He's not must-see TV. What you do is you give him a finisher, and you see if he can fight his fight so he doesn't get scalped. Or you give him a finisher so that he can't play it safe and coast to a decision. He has to fight. But that's the thing here, is that Miguel Delgado hasn't been tested to the point where I can be 100% certain that he will not allow Nathaniel Wood to employ a clinching and wrestling-heavy game plan to get to a decision victory over himself. Super risky to have one of these veteran decisionators fight with a guy who hasn't been tested to this degree, because it's a possibility that the experience of the boring fighter will make it so that they will be able to win how they normally do, which is just by stinking it up. Jose Miguel Delgado, though, has a lot going for him. He has youth on his side. He is off of 2 finishes, 3 if you want to count the Contender Series. Wood is kind of plateaued in his career. I mean, sure, he did beat Morgan Charrier, but I mean, that wasn't the highest level or even most memorable fight. Jose Miguel Delgado is here to knock this guy's block off. This guy Nathaniel Wood is 32 years old, and he's been in the UFC since 2018, and he still calls himself the prospect. Which, I mean, at 32, I guess you could still consider yourself one, especially if you're beating prospects. But you got to be finishing them. Prospects get finishes, mate. I don't make the rules here. Miguel Delgado he's a real one for knocking out Haider Emil in like sub 30 seconds whenever they did fight. I didn't see that one coming at all. Nathaniel Wood, the grappling, even though that's how he's subduing guys to win decisions, that is actually a pathway for you to win. As displayed by Muhammad Naimov, he was able to beat Nathaniel Wood this way just by clinching him up and getting the fight to the ground and controlling him there. Miguel Delgado is on a KO streak, but Wood is going to be a hard opponent to finish. He could either chin him in the early going of this fight, which I'm going to predict will happen, or he'll display more layers of his game by being able to out-skill him to a decision, which would honestly probably be even better for his longevity in this division. If you could do something like that to Nathaniel Wood, but Nathaniel Wood is really no stranger to beating these up-and-coming prospects. Morgan Charrier, as I had mentioned before, and he also got Charles Jourdain in 2022, whenever that was a little bit more meaningful. I will be riding with Jose Miguel Delgado here. I think that he will get the first round KO, but it's one of these. Valter Walker versus Louie Sutherland. Rest in peace, Justin Tafa. Louie Sutherland, he should have debuted in Australia against one of the Tafa bros, but Justin could not make 265, which is ridiculous. This is a cool fight for Valter Walker to beat another untested guy with a heel hook. He's been making memes about it, and every single one of his Instagram posts, I follow him there. This dude is a chain, and there's like a rubber human foot that he attaches as a pendant on the chain. This is a short notice matchup that the promotion put together since Mo Usman is confirmed a cheater pumpkin eater, and the Tafa man couldn't make the heavyweight weight limit, which is, that honestly just makes me laugh to say out loud, man. Sutherland is a champion at some British promotion. That doesn't indicate to me that he's at a UFC level yet. Valter Walker has a very clear path to victory here through the wrestling against any heavyweight who hasn't displayed a great ability to wrestle in past fights. Louie Sutherland does have the nuclear option, but it's not like Valter Walker is going to be behind in terms of frame or physicality here. The only thing that Louie Sutherland really has going for him in this matchup is the fact that he's never been submitted before. But, you know, there's a first time for everything, so I think it will be this time. I'm buying into the hype of Valter Walker. I think that he's frustrated by getting blue-balled in his last matchup by Mo Usman. Mo Usman failed his PED test like a day and a half out from the event, so I know that Valter Walker has been wanting to get in there and show more of his skills, fight again, so he's going to be taking this very seriously. The change in opponent doesn't really mean anything to him, I know. I'm just excited to see if he's been talking crap or if he actually is really about this whole heel hook thing. It doesn't seem like just a bit. His entire Instagram feed, I told you I followed him, it's just AI generated art of him holding dismembered human feet. And it's the funniest thing ever, so I need to see another heel hook here. I think it's going to happen in round 1 as well. And I will feel so vindicated if that's the way that this one goes. Abdul Selwady versus Matteus Camilo. Matteus Camilo, unlucky, mate. He fought Gabe Green in his debut. And Gabe Green, he was supposed to be easy pickings. At least at welterweight he is. But, I mean, he cut down the lightweight. He had the strength of a 170 and some UFC experience that Matteus Camilo did not share in having. Matteus Camilo was winning this fight in the early going of his match with Gabe Green. But he burned himself out. He prioritized submission over position. He ended up folding his opportunity to control through one round and then ended up making himself super tired and trying to finish the fight with subs. And what this led to was him ultimately getting subbed by Gabe Green, who kept his composure and survived. But Camilo, he's the guy who trains at Extreme Couture. I see him in all of their content as well, in the background on the mats, or he's actually training with some of the athletes too. I also follow this jiu-jitsu guy named Kyle O'Hare. That's a guy who's always hanging out with Wing C. He like hits emotes after he wins his MMA fights. Like that's like his thing. He's like the emoting fighter. Yeah, he was wrestling with Matteus Camilo, and he was talking about how he was getting crushed by Matteus on the mats. And he was showing some of the videos as well. This guy's a very high level of grappler, and I think that he can make it work for MMA. He just got to chill out and pace himself a little bit better through these fights. Abdul Selwady, though, he beat George Harwick on the Contender Series, got a UFC contract, fought this guy from Tajikistan, Loic Radzhabov, and he got absolutely crushed and thrown into the wind in this fight. And he didn't look like much of anything in this one. George Harwick made this dude look like a proper like prospect, maybe even a potential contender with a few more wins. And then Loic Radzhabov just absolutely dominated this man and knocked him out bad. This was like a crazy stoppage too, where the guy just got beat up for entirely too long. The ref let him just hang in there and just take a bunch of damage. Who's to say he doesn't come out and put on a really good performance though, since it has been 3 canceled matchups and this loss since he's last competed in the UFC octagon, so I know he's going to be wanting to get it back in blood. We'll see how he does against Matteus Camilo. I'm actually going to invest my belief and hope into Matteus Camilo actually producing a win one final time here. If he makes me look like a goober, I will not pick him again. I'm going to be putting my trust in the 24-year-old who did not get folded brutally in his last fight. Matteus Camilo will win via round 2 TKO. After failing in his debut, he was only signed on to a 1-fight contract. I think that Matteus Camilo went down to the regional scene, and then he fought with that guy who asked for a UFC contract as like a journalist. And then he was like, I was like, come over here, we're going to talk. And I think that he didn't end up getting a contract, and he fought Matteus Camilo, and I think he got knocked out. So I'm going to predict that Matteus Camilo wins via round 2 TKO in this one against Abdul Selwady. Next, we have Mateusz Rebecki versus Ludoveit Klein, Pupu versus PP. This is the highest level of opponent that each fighter can beat each other, and this is a very winnable fight for each of them. I'd give the edge in grappling to Mateusz Rebecki, but both of these guys do display breakdowns in terms of striking defense. I'd give the edge in striking to Ludoveit Klein, but it's very narrow, and he's no stranger to getting out-wrestled by Polish dudes, as he's last displayed in his fight against Mateusz Gamrot, which he's coming off of. But at the same time, it's not like Ludoveit Klein wasn't getting outstruck by Roosevelt Roberts and had to rely on his wrestling to get that fight done. And he only won by decision in that one as well. I mean, Matteus Rebecki, he was able to finish the fight, but again, he didn't really even look that good against Roosevelt Roberts either. So weird, man. So weird. There's like a 2.5 month turnaround for Mateusz Rebecki as well. After he looked like he got hit by a bus against Chris Duncan, he always takes crazy damage. This is going to be a certified CTE classic between the two of these fighters because they do not move their head or raise their guard to defend from strikes. They just eat punches with their foreheads. I think that I'm going to have Rebecki winning this fight though, just because he displayed more grit. And I know that I had said that Ludoveit Klein has the advantage in striking, but in terms of raw power, that's going to go to Mateusz Rebecki. And I think that they're going to be 50-50ing so much in this fight that it's going to come down to who is hitting harder in these exchanges to win them. It's not going to come down to technique. It's just going to come down to who's winging bigger punches and who's catching who with the better shots. And I think that's going to be Mateusz Rebecki the whole way through. If he does want to switch tempo to wrestle, though, I think he'll be free to do that as well. I think that's going to make it so that he at least wins a decision. I want to see a stoppage out of this fight, though. I want to see these guys take some damage. This could backfire for Mateusz since his turnaround is quite short, but I think that we can trust him to win this one. He beat Oralby. CDF beat him, but I mean, Carlos Diego Ferreira, there's definitely like worse strikers in this weight class, and I think that Ludoveit Klein is a worse striker than Carlos Diego Ferreira. So yeah, we're going to ride with Mateusz Rebecki here. He's going to win via round 2 KO. Next, we have Ikram Aliskerov versus Junyoung Park at middleweight. I think that Ikram Aliskerov is going to submit Junyoung Park because Junyoung Park, he lost to Andre Muniz. He didn't look very formidable at all in that fight. Historically, Park has lost to grapplers who can't strike, and he's put on some pretty closely contested decision fights, winning narrowly against the worst of the worst at 185. I mean, I think that Junyoung Park could win this fight. It's just that he doesn't. Junyoung Park has split decision wins over Eric Anders against Brad Tavares, and he lost to Andre Muniz in 2023. And that was his last loss, and Muniz is no longer even in the UFC. And Ikram is a guy who stopped Muniz in his last outing. That wasn't the last fight that Muniz had in the UFC before he got cut. I think that was against Edmund Shabazian. But let's go off. He requires a fast hand to KO. If you want to knock him out, you got to have some really fast response time or just a quick hand in order to beat him. And Junyoung Park is about as slow twitch as they come on the feet. He won't have the advantage of being the stronger fighter over Ikram Aliskerov or the better striker as well to be able to knock him out. He won't be the better wrestler in order to pull off a decision here. I could totally see him getting tied up on the ground and submitted by Ikram Aliskerov, so that's what I'm going to go with a round 2 sub for Ikram. This is going to be the top of the prelims here, Nasrat Haqparast versus Quillan Sakild. I first saw this matchup and I was like, yo, Nasrat Haqparast is about to dub here, because he would have totally knocked out Esteban Ribovic if Ribovic didn't have a granite jaw. But once upon a time, Nasrat Haqparast was freely wrestled by Dan Hooker. And this was after Dan Hooker had come off of losses to Arnold Allen and Michael Chandler and needed to start preserving his brain if he wanted to have, like, he couldn't just go out and have Esteban Ribovic versus Nasrat Haqparast against Nasrat Haqparast whenever he fought him. So he took the path of least resistance, which was in the wrestling, and he was able to win soundly that way. Quillan Sakild is a wrestler, and he's a good display of what type of grappling they do have to offer out of Australia. I don't think that Nasrat Haqparast would have any difficulty winning a stand-up battle against Quillan Sakild if the wrestling wasn't such a clear path to victory for him. Sakild demonstrated some competency on the feet, but largely he was able to beat a fighter like Yanal Ashmuz with his grappling. That is a good wrestler for this weight class, certified. Nasrat Haqparast is not the best wrestler, and he's always had that as a glaring weakness, that he can't really grapple too well. Quillan does have a nice right hand on him, but he's only stopped Anshul Jubilee with it, so it doesn't really count too much, but I think that we can all safely vest hope in a Quillan Sakild getting to a body lock, getting to a clinch, advancing that position to get the fight to the ground, and notching like double-digit control time in this fight. If he really just wants to come out and sniff, I think he'll win a decision super easily. I don't think that the opportunity to submit Nasrat Haqparast will be there per se, but I think that the opportunity to control him through 15 minutes will for sure be there. So that's what I'm going to go with. Sakild via decision here. Now we're going to talk about the main card. Cyril Gane is about to put us on game with the infinite title shot glitch. I don't know how he does it. This guy is the method. Alright, so to get us going on this card, we have Alexander Rakic versus Azamat Murzakanov. Murzakanov is a guy who's been caught for using steroids. He's been banned. He comes back. He fights Brinson Ribeiro. He knocks out Brinson Ribeiro. And now he's here. I think that he's still battling ring rust minorly. And I think this is going to play out like Azamat Bukoyev versus Yusri Belgarui that we just watched last weekend, right? It's going to be a fight between a guy who has the skills, right, to get on the inside, clinch up, try to initiate takedowns, the striking to finish people at range, but he has to get close, a big clubbing overhand. But he's going to be fighting a guy with too much range and too much distance management to be able to effectively utilize his weapons, and he's going to tire until he gets finished. I think that I totally see this happening the same way. And even in this fight that we're going to talk about next, Volkov versus Jailton Almeida, I think that it goes similarly as well. Azamat Murzakanov isn't going to have the frame to be able to deal with Alexander Rakic. Alexander Rakic, he can get out-gridded. We've seen it in the Yuri Prochazka fight. We've seen it in the Magomed Ankalaev fight as well. But Magomed Ankalaev has been gifted with a better frame than Azamat Murzakanov for fighting opponents like Alexander Rakic. Rakic really just needs to stay on the outside and pick away at Azamat Murzakanov, and he can totally win this fight. The low kick will be a good weapon for him. The jab and straight punch will be a good weapon for him. Azamat Murzakanov is undefeated, so, I mean, path to victory is against a guy who's never been beaten before. It's hard to say so, but I think that it's going to come down to physicality here, which is going to make all the difference for Alexander Rakic. I will actually pick him to win this fight, but, I mean, he's skating on thin ice, dude. That 6.5-inch reach advantage on a guy who hits like Alexander Rakic does is juicy. And so is that 6-inch height advantage as well. Azamat Murzakanov is going to have to work really hard to close the distance in order to get on the inside and score a knockout. I don't think that he's going to be able to do it. I think that Rakic has this one in the bag. It likely will turn into a grindy fight at certain points, but it might not be. It may just be Azamat Murzakanov trying different aspects of his game to win, them failing, Alexander Rakic rallying, and then scoring a finish from there. That would be glorious, man. And Alexander Rakic is due for an epic W, so I'm going to pick him to win this fight. Azamat Murzakanov is a guy that people view as a dark horse of this division. He doesn't really have that many impressive wins to me. Alexander Rakic has been losing to the best fighters in the division for a while now. Anytime that he's lost at 205, it's been to a guy who's been the best in the world. So I'm going to pick Rakic to win this fight via round 2 KO. Now we discuss Alexander Volkov versus Jailton Almeida. It's the blob meta, dude. Alexander Volkov, he definitely toned up a little bit so that he's not weighing in right at 264 pounds. But what is a 235-pound heavyweight going to do against a guy who's this large with this much of a height advantage over him? We saw what happened against Blades, man. Jailton Almeida, he needs to put on some weight. There has to be some type of mass behind these wrestling attempts in order for them to be successful in this weight class, or else he's just going to fail them and get stuck on the outside or get caught coming in by a guy who just is ready to brace and shuck him off whenever he goes for takedowns. It makes me nervous, though, for the fact that Cyril Gane was able to take down Volkov with a broken foot, and that guy's not even a grappler like that. I don't think that Jailton Almeida is going to be able to replicate the same thing, though. Almeida's just in this purgatory, right, where he's just too muscular to be a 205er, but he's not large enough to be a heavyweight. And this is about as big of a heavyweight fighter that you can be match made with in Alexander Volkov. I don't think that he's going to have any success in any of his pathways to victory. He's not going to be able to outstrike Volkov at range. I think he's going to be getting tormented with front kicks, with low kicks, with straight punches at distance. Volkov is just going to be able to snipe this guy. And Almeida is just going to be shaking his head and getting frustrated, trying to get on the inside to get to a single leg or a double leg or to a clinch up against the cage. If he does get the fight there, then we've even seen that he has a hard time finishing against larger fighters for this heavyweight division. And again, Volkov is about as big as they come for 265. I don't think this one is going to go well for him. This guy is not Sergey Spivak. Volkov, for all intents and purposes, right now is like the third best heavyweight. I would say that it goes Aspinall, Gane, Volkov, and then Almeida. And the distance between Volkov and Almeida on this power rankings, I think that there's like kind of a steep cliff between the two of them. And I think that will be displayed in the fact that Volkov will get a first-round KO in this fight. Umar Nurmagomedov versus Mario Batista at bantamweight. I want to see there be another American title challenger for the belt against Merab, but it's really just like, it doesn't matter, man. It really doesn't matter. If Mario Batista were to win this fight, unless he's completely transformed himself, the skill set that he's demonstrated to us up until this point does not beat Merab. Umar got close, but he just suffered a hand injury, so I think that I'm going to put more prevalence into that as far as him returning to the title to get an opportunity to challenge for it again than another guy coming up and beating Umar. Umar was able to soundly dismantle Corey Sandhagen, which was the last title challenger, and that's really his only accomplishment before this. Maybe Beksad Almakhan will turn into a better aging win as time progresses. That's very possible, but Umar Nurmagomedov, it's him or nobody at 135. At this point, that's like the last test for Merab, is to beat Umar Nurmagomedov twice after beating Jan twice, and then he fights Pantoja, or he goes up to 145. And we all know it, man. People are only picking Mario Batista to be contrarian. I think that Mario Batista is a good fighter. I don't think that he beats Umar Nurmagomedov. Umar will have Khabib with him this time. That's going to make a huge difference. I think that this is going to be a fight that goes to decision because of the styles. I just don't see Umar Nurmagomedov losing this fight in any universe. He could even potentially finish, but I'm just not going to predict that that will happen. I think that he will soundly get a decision victory over Mario Batista here. His last loss, I'm not going to go as far as to say it was a fluke, just because Merab is that good, but it's an entirely different fight if he doesn't hurt his hand. He will be healthy here. I think he beats Mario Batista with no problem. This fight, man, whenever this got announced, I was like, dude, what we doing, man? I guess they have to have a champion at strawweight since Valentina Shevchenko is going to fight with Zhang Weili, and that'll be for the 125-pound belt. These women have already fought before. Virna Jandiroba has literally lost to Mackenzie Dern. I think that Dern could potentially win a decision here, but I'm kind of fighting myself right now to not select Virna Jandiroba to beat Mackenzie Dern in the rematch. Because we've seen before, just because the fight happens one way like 5 years ago, it doesn't go the same way again. And Virna Jandiroba, for all intents and purposes, has been looking a little bit better than Mackenzie Dern, but this is going to be a grappler for grappler matchup, and I still think that Mackenzie Dern was better at jiu-jitsu than Virna Jandiroba 5 years ago, and she's still going to be better than her in 2025. So as long as she doesn't get knocked out, which I mean, all times that Mackenzie Dern gets dropped, there are opportunities for her to initiate the grappling, which would put her ahead in the fight. Then she wins a decision. I think that it's probably split. Maybe it's a close fight that people are going to be like, oh, wow, that was a close fight, but I don't care. And then we just move on to the main event. I'm not expecting much from this matchup, dude, just because, like, we all want to see Tom Aspinall versus Cyril Gane at this point. And this is just kind of something to do in the interim of waiting for that to go down, for those guys to walk out and for us to be able to watch that fight. I'm going to select Mackenzie Dern to win a decision like she did all those years ago. I'm selecting this on pretty low confidence, but in 5 years, Virna Jandiroba has aged towards the end of her prime, and Mackenzie Dern is arguably just now entering hers at 32, so I think it's going to be her time to hold the belt in this weight class, which is funny because, I mean, she's only off of 2 wins. But whenever you look at the lack of depth at women's strawweight, this kind of makes the most sense. So I'm going to select Mackenzie Dern to win via 25-minute stinky. All right, so here's the deal with this, man. If Tom Aspinall doesn't win this fight in the round 1 by knocking out Cyril Gane or submitting him, then, like, I mean, I don't know. We spent so much time talking about how good this guy is, and if he actually has a close fight with Cyril Gane, God forbid he loses the fight, what do we even do with him? Is that your champion still? Is that gonna be our heavyweight GOAT? The guy who went life and death with Cyril Gane after 2 dudes beat him super easily. Francis Ngannou with a completely obliterated knee. And then John Jones without even breaking a sweat. This feels like we're about to play the last mission of a video game. Because after this, there's literally nothing else for Tom Aspinall to do. Other than just rematch, guys. Maybe beat Jailton Almeida if he ends up winning over Volkov. But there's literally nothing to do here. Heavyweight is just so bad. Oh my god. And they didn't push contenders up towards the top of the division in time in order for there to be, like, another opponent that we're eyeing after Tom Aspinall does beat Cyril Gane if it goes that way. Cyril Gane winning isn't even any better. All that would really do is kind of open things up for maybe Pereira to move up and fight with Cyril Gane since it's a better stylistic matchup. Who knows, man, but that could be on the docket, and that could also be fun, too. But we've seen that. We played these games before. Cyril Gane gets a title shot. This is going to be his 3rd title shot in 3 years, mate. It's like he just kind of wins by default because nobody else offers the skill set or the frame or the clout that comes with beating Cyril Gane for his past accomplishments and just being who he is. So it's like, it makes the most sense. I wanted to complain about it whenever this fight first got announced, but I don't think that Tom Aspinall is going to get frauded here, dude. I don't think he's going to get fraud checked by Cyril Gane. I don't think that Cyril Gane is the guy to do it. Nobody in this division does it. If Tom Aspinall is the guy who we all think that he is, and who I've been told that he was by these yuppies in the comment section. So he's got to win via round 1 KO. If he doesn't, I don't believe in anything anymore. So yeah, that's going to be my predictions recap. At the end of the day, I'm only here for a Golden Freddy's KO. We're going to keep a count right there. Whenever we do see a Golden Freddy's KO on one of these cards, there'll be another suit placed below my head. That's what I want. I'm pining for one. We'll say that one is Wesson Wilson versus Yi Jia in Shanghai. That was the last Golden Freddy's KO that I can even remember. But so yeah, those are going to be all my picks right there. Let me know who you guys have for these fights in the comment section below. Do like, comment, and subscribe if you made it to this point in the video. I will catch you fellas in the next upload. Peace out.